Hello everyone, welcome to Task IS. Today we will continue archaeological anthropology and we will discuss contributions of tribal cultures to Indian civilization. We will also cover some famous archaeologists like Robert Brucefoot as well as H.D. Sankalia. So we will discuss these two famous archaeologists as well. One important information for all is that PDFs of all ethics as well as anthropology lectures are available in our Telegram channel, and link of that channel is given in description of video, so you can enjoy those PDFs as well. And here my motive to provide these PDFs is that you should have some kind of ready-made notes and you should add other references or extra points from other coaching materials in these notes or in these slides, so your work will be reduced. Now, contributions of tribal cultures to Indian civilization. Study of various stages of prehistory reveals that Indian tribal population has been participating in dynamics of mainstream social as cultural evolution from the very beginning. So this line is saying that when Indian civilization was evolved or developed, there are many changes were observed, and these changes include both indigenous as well as exogenous. Indigenous, that means they all were internal factors, but in exogenous some external factors playing their role in evolution of Indian civilization. Now, what is culture, what is civilization? We will discuss these differences later, but simply understand that culture is our way of life and civilization is a stage of development of culture. For time being, understand these differences. Now, tribal cultures. Firstly, if we notice any definition of tribes by Mazumdar or Imperial Gazette of India, they simply define tribes as a group of families or bands. They are living together. They generally follow endogamy and they have restricted contact with outside communities. So how that tribal community or tribal culture have contributed to Indian civilization? So firstly, this contribution of tribal culture to Indian civilization is part of indigenous development. Now, there are different point of view to describe role of tribal cultures. So firstly, this statement noted that in the dynamics of social and cultural evolution from very beginning tribals were participated. Now it is clear from archaeological records that aboriginal Indian population was predominantly tribal. So if we go by views of Andre Betal, he noted that it was tribals who should be considered as indigenous population of India. So if we go by this idea or by this theorem, then it is tribal cultures who led to actual evolution of Indian civilization, or we can say that tribal cultures had made a bedrock of Indian civilization on which other factors have played role in development of different new features. So this is one point of view. Later, migration of foreign tribes into mainland India, and migration can alone account for the complex and diverse racial types within India, as there is no paleontological evidence of substantiating their evolution. So this line says that it was migration from different directions, because we know in India we followed spirits of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and different tribes or different communities from different parts of world came here and settled here. They may be Central Asian tribes, West Asian tribes, or communities from Malayan Peninsula. So all these have settled here. So there was a flux of people from different parts, and even Aryanization or movement of Central Asian tribe or people from Siberia. So there are different hypotheses regarding influx of people from different parts, and all these led to diverse racial and cultural as well as ethnic diversity in India. So firstly, this tribal community has added different racial as well as ethnicity, and this diversity is like a asset for any civilization to grow. Now IVC, that is Indus Valley Civilization, is indigenous work of Indian tribes. So another line is this: because even recent excavation from Rakhigiri, that is in Haryana, it shows that DNA was more than 5000 years old. So from this excavation, it is noted that it was indigenous population who have developed Indus Valley civilization, and it was not any outside movement or outside people who led to development of this civilization. Later invasion of Aryan tribes and their amalgamation into Indian society and establishment of Vedic civilization. So we all know that there is a theory of Aryanization of India. Later Vedic period and interaction between aboriginals and Aryan tribes, Aryanization of Indian tribes and tribalization of Aryan people. We'll later also discuss these topics when we discuss about origin of caste system, because it is said that Aryans have some superior racial features and they have more Sanskritized traditions, and people who are living here, that is aboriginals, Aryans considers them as the shoes or slaves that led to exploitation of aboriginals, and all this led to intermingling, led to origin of different caste. Now mention of Indian tribes in ancient Indian text like Panchtantra, Kathashrit Sagra, Vishnu Purana, Harsha Charita, and epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata is a testimony of the fact of their proactive role in gradual evolution of Indian society and culture. Because if any epic or any literature mention about tribes, that means those tribes have role in that society or that community. Only then literature will talk about those tribal communities. Now examples: mention of Sabaras of or Sauras in Atriya Brahmana. These are part of Vedas. Now Kinnars and Kiratas in ancient text. Eklavya, that is a figure in Mahabharata, and it is well known that he belongs to Bhil tribe. Now Mundas and Naga tribes are said to have fought alongside with Kauravas at Kurukshetra war against Pandavas. Now Bhima married Hindiba, that is again a tribal lady. Mention of Arjuna marrying Chitrangada, a Naga princess. These are another examples which shows that how interaction between mainstream society and tribal society continued in ancient or medieval India. Tribal folklore contain anecdotes and legends from Hindu epics like Ramayana, Mahabharata. Examples like Gonds consider themselves as descendants of Ravana, and Munda consider themselves descendants of Manu. So these shows that not only in mainstream literature but also in folklore stories of tribals as well, there is mention of continuous interaction and continuous exchange of cultural traditions, and all this led to mixing of different ideas, different traits, and that led to a complex civilization that known as Indian civilization. Now use of iron, and I think you remember about Agarias. These tribal peoples are well known for their specialization in iron smelting. So these tribal peoples have spreaded their information to mainstream society as well. Now, art of raising rice crops, especially paddy, where samplings are grown separately in a separate nursery. Now, practice of magical religious way of dealing with pest and disease of crop is inherited from tribal culture. So it mentioned that it is not only about ethical or racial or ethnicity mixing or just mentioned in various literatures, but it is also at practical level. For example, in economy, in art, in technology, in different spheres, mainstream society have benefited from knowledge of tribal culture. Now, worship of Shiva, Sharpa, Vriksha is adopted from tribal culture. Various little tradition. Now, what is little tradition and great tradition? These are two different terms used by famous Indian anthropologists. Firstly by Robert Redfield, later by Mackie Marriott and other anthropologists. And little tradition is generally used for simple cultures like tribal society, where there is focus more on folklores because they don't have that much advanced technology to have written literature. And in little tradition, now focus on kinship relations is strong, and generally they are very small society or small community. But in great tradition, focus more on written literature, having surplus in economy, and have more modernization as well as organized governance. So these are characteristics of great tradition, although there are some criticisms because we can't divide any society into little or great in exact terms, because in great tradition also we follow some magico religious practices, because even in modern society, use of pharmaceutical drugs as well as use of babas or some tabis continue to exist parallelly. It shows that some great as well as little traditions dimensions continue to exist together and they didn't replace each other. Thus, tribal population has contributed enormously to the nation's prehistoric as well as historic development, and Indian civilization has been enriched with the dynamic participation of these ancient inhabitants of the subcontinent. So, from our ancient text to economy or in religious dimension, we notice that it is tribal cultures who have contributed a lot. And now with new dimensions like idea of decentralization or sabha or smiti, these are borrowed from tribals because they have this decentralization system in polity or in social dimension, justice system. And now mainstream societies focus more on decentralizations. Earlier focus was more on centralization. If we discuss about mahajanpatas or formation of making of rastras, maharashtras, but now focus more on decentralization. Or you can mention 73rd or 74th amendment is also a part of this tendency. Another example you can mention about recent focus on Ayush, that is traditional medicine, is again a contribution of tribal culture, where focus on herbal or natural treatment is more. So all these factors have contributed in making Indian civilization what it is today. Now we will discuss some famous archaeologists. Firstly is Robert Bruce Foote. He is known as father of Indian prehistory. He was a British geologist and archaeologist who conducted geological surveys of prehistoric locations in India, and he discovered first conclusive Paleolithic stone tool, a hand axe, near Pallavaram in Madras. So you have to notice that Foote was first one who have discovered these tools as well as classifying those tools whether they belong to Paleolithic, Mesolithic or other stages, because earlier that classification was not present, especially in case of India. So his work is important. He went to discover more such tools and settlements in southern and the western India. So his area of work is also given. Discovery of hand axe was an important event. He was a hand axe made of hard rock, that is quartzite. So he also focused on what kind of material that was used in making these tools. His discovery changed the antiquity of humankind who lived in the Indian subcontinent. So it is mentioned that it was due to discovery of his that Indian prehistory got a place in world map, because when world prehistory is discussed, now focus on Indian prehistory is also given. Earlier that was not the case. He found numerous stone tools including hand axes, cleavers, flake tools at Attirapakkam. So he started his study from Pallavaram and later Attirapakkam. He has found different tools, hand axes, cleavers and flake tools. All these were mainly Paleolithic tools near the Kotila river in Tiruvallur district. Prehistoric man has used them to hunt animals. Now what he had evaluated from these tools is that prehistoric man had used these tools to hunt animals, gathering around water holes and exploit plant and aquatic resources. Foote not only discovered stone tools but also classified, catalogued and described them. He tried to understand the technology that went into making these tools. So he tried to understand that how these tools were made and how brain exploration helped in making these specialized tools. He studied whether the tool was made of quartzite, agnite, chalcedony or chert, whether it belonged to Paleolithic, Neolithic or Iron Age. He painted a holistic picture of every discovery he made. So as our discipline has some special characteristics like participant observation, holistic study, case studies, so he have focused on specific dimensions of our discipline. So he focused on holistic study, where how these tools were made, what kind of material or what kind of technology is used and what is use of these tools. So although these are some of the predictions and possibilities, because these artifacts are proof of past and we can't conclude exactly what their use was, but these hypotheses, especially if given with rationality, so we can approximately tell that what was its use. Foote was also the first to discover teeny tools called microliths in Tirunelveli. He is among the foremost intellectuals of 19th century. So we can say that firstly he has discovered about Paleolithic as well as Neolithic tools and also described their classification, related technology, its use. So overall he initiated archaeological studies, especially prehistoric artifact studies in India. That's why his role is important. Now H.D. Sankalia, he is another famous archaeologist and he had worked in Deccan School of Archaeology. Now around the age of 16 he happened to read Lokmanya Tilak's Arctic Home in the Vedas. So this book led to his development of interest in history, and this book made such an impression on him that he decided to pursue a career in ancient history, and to equip himself for this task he studied Sanskrit as well, because earlier books were written in Sanskrit. He obtained a master's degree in history from Bombay University and writing a thesis on University of Nalanda. University of Nalanda. So he wrote a thesis on University of Nalanda as well. Major excavation at Langnas, Ahar, Inamgoa, Nevasa. Langnas is famous Mesolithic site in Gujarat. Ahar, Inamgoa and Nevasa, we have studied these sites in Chalcolithic. Work in twin branches of prehistory as well as proto-history. Now difference between prehistory and proto-history can be studied by our earlier lectures on archaeological anthropology introduction, when we discussed about 4 branches of anthropology. A short definition is that in prehistory we discuss about that part of history where there was no written sources, so everything is approximated from artifacts. In proto history, although there were some written scripts, but till now we are not able to decipher them. Even now IVC or Harappan seals or Harappan scripts can be taken as a part of proto history, and in prehistory we can consider most of the Paleolithic times, Mesolithic times as an example of prehistory. Now laid foundation for scientific study of prehistory. So he focused more on rationality, scientific ideas, and even more technology, because at the time of Sankalia, now new technology and new dating methods like absolute dating methods, carbon 14 dating developed, and that gave it exact idea of dates. So he used modern technology in excavation and in analysis of artifacts. Established presence of middle and upper Paleolithic phases and Mesolithic stages in Indian prehistory, because especially deciding upper Paleolithic phase in India was difficult. Here only 2 main sites, that is Belan Valley in Uttar Pradesh, near Belan Valley area in Uttar Pradesh, and another near Andhra Pradesh, where Rani Gunta and MCG sites, these are famous 2 sites in upper Paleolithic phase in India. So it was very difficult to differentiate middle as well as upper Paleolithic in India, which was very easily differentiated in European Paleolithic layers. So this contribution is important. Secondly, he put Kashmir Valley on Paleolithic map. So HD Sankalia's excavation area includes starting from Kashmir to western and southern area, as well as near Assam as well. So he done a vast area of excavation study of artifacts. Discovered Chalcolithic phases at Inamgoan. This excavation provided the first evidence of settled farming people in Maharashtra and opened a new chapter in archaeology of India. Now understand this fact, because when we discuss about Neolithic in Deccan or Deccan Neolithic, it is very much different from Ganga Valley Neolithic phase, because in South India presence of fertile land was limited, and kind of rural settlements or occupational specialization, higher agricultural surplus that we have observed in Ganga Valley was not found in South India, because again due to lack of fertility, as well as in South India focus on more on pastoralist. So there were different ash mounds were found, as well as some farming also done, like ragi or other millets were used as a crops. So but again that Neolithic structure and later different Chalcolithic phases have some difference from what we have observed in Ganga Valley region. So Chalcolithic phase study at Inamgoan with evidence of settled farming people in Maharashtra, it provide a new chapter in archaeology of India, because that was like some exceptional case. He had been keen interest in just emerging new archaeology. That new archaeology is different from earlier archaeology, because in new archaeology focus more on logical understanding, more interpretation. This is more focused here. He awarded Padma Bhushan by Government of India. His autobiography, that is Born for Archaeology, published in 1978. Apart from his monumental research work and various publications, his main contribution is in the development of Department of Archaeology at Deccan College, because later his successors like V.N. Mishra has done He studied near Rajasthan and in western India, which also provided very important contributions. Founded in 1939 under Sankalia leadership, it has developed into a premier research institution by the time of his retirement in 1973. So we can say that it is Bruce Foote who have initiated archaeological studies with holistic dimension, but it was later Sankalia who have made our archaeological studies more institutionalized, and he had left his legacy on archaeology, especially archaeological anthropology. So that's all for today. We have covered majority of parts in archaeological anthropology. I will try to start a new chapter in next class. If you like these videos, please like, share and subscribe Task IAS. Thank you so much.